He kept up a regular correspondence with Mrs. Moore, and within the year, she and her daughter Maureen had moved to a village near Oxford to be closer to Jack.
The beginnings of the relationship are complicated. It has to do with her son Paddy Moore and his death in World War I, and then Lewis taking on his household. It was marked by very, very great deception. Lewis is, at this stage, what he called a blasphemer. Lewis is an undergraduate living with Mrs. Moore. Albert doesn't know that. Poor Albert thinks he's just supporting the latest textbook purchase, and he doesn't realize he's contributing to this household. You know. So this was probably the worst part of Lewis's life. God was working at him in ways which I think he didn't know. Why should Lewis be an exception? As brilliant as he was, you know, he didn't know everything about himself. For example, I don't think Lewis was ever an atheist. Lewis believes he was an atheist. But if you look at Dimer or Spirits in Bondage and you read some of the poetry there, that's some of the most compelling religious poetry you'll ever read. Now this is supposedly written by a man who's an atheist. You know, there's this unknown self, which, in my view, the Holy Spirit was pulling out of Lewis, and he's writing this poetry. You know, Warren Lewis said that he didn't believe his brother converted, that rather it was like a convalescence from a long mental illness, that coming back to Christianity was more along the lines of recovering his sanity. I mean, obviously, when Joy died, he was devastated, you know, and there's not an emotional wrong note in all of A Grief Observed, the book Lewis wrote, the diary, you know, that he kept when Joy died. Early on in the 30s, in the introduction to Mere Christianity, he says early on he realized that the one thing he could do was to try to explain Christianity to people who didn't have the abilities or advantages that he had. And he stuck to that.
Including himself.
Lewis's move to Cambridge in '54 from Oxford was a very big event in his life. It changed his daily life in so many ways. It changed the way people saw him. It liberated him from so much. And the question, of course, is why the change? And the obvious answer, the efficient cause, was they offered him a chair. They offered him the chair of medieval and Renaissance English literature, created especially for him. Well, Oxford, of course, was appalled by the fact that the megastar, you know, would move, but they hadn't given him a chair.